Quick question. Do you know how many of your website visitors this month turned into retained cases? If you don't, but you know your keyword rankings, you're measuring the wrong thing. In this video, we're going to fix that. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jesse Stewart. I'm a paralegal and an SEO specialist, and I help personal injury firms generate more retained cases through retained client SEO without PPC dependency. If you appreciate me making this video, gently hit that like button and let's get into today's video. Retained client SEO is built around one core idea. The goal isn't traffic, it's retained cases. Rankings, impressions, and visitor counts are all the things that happen along the way, but none of them are actual finish line. Today, we're zeroing in on one specific mistake almost every firm makes at some point, and that's tracking the wrong metric entirely. If this stage of thinking is off, it doesn't matter how good the rest of your marketing looks, because you'll be making decisions based on numbers that don't actually tell you what's working. So let's start with why this matters so much. Most personal injury firms get a monthly report that says something like, you're now ranking number 3 for car accident lawyer, or your organic traffic is up 22% this month. That sounds like progress. It feels like progress. But neither of those numbers tell you the one thing you actually care about, which is whether any of the activity turned into a retained case. Rankings measure visibility, traffic measures visitors, neither one measures revenue. Here's the uncomfortable part. A firm can rank number 1 for a competitive keyword, double its organic traffic year over year, and still bring in fewer retained cases than it did before. That's not a hypothetical. It happens because rankings and traffic are proxy metrics. They're easy to measure and easy to put in on a slide, so agencies report them. But a proxy metric is only useful if it's actually connected to the outcome you want. And for a lot of firms, that connection is a lot weaker than they assume. Now, why do proxy metrics feel so convincing even when they're misleading? Because they move in a direction that looks good. A rankings graph going up feels like validation. A traffic chart trending upward feels like your marketing is working. Nobody wants to question a chart that's pointing the right way. But a chart pointing up only matters if it's connected to something that pays your bills. And rankings and traffic by themselves are not that thing. They're closer to a step on the way there than the destination itself. So what should you be tracking instead? The metric that actually matters is your retained case conversion rate. Out of everyone who visits your site through organic search, what percentage actually becomes a retained case? Not a form fill, not a phone call, a retained case. That number tells you whether your SEO is working as a business system, not as a visibility system. Across the firms I've worked with, that number typically sits somewhere between 2 and 4% when it's being tracked correctly. So if you run this for your own firm and land way under 2%, that's usually a sign something upstream needs attention. Now, why does this get missed so often? Honestly, because rankings and traffic are simple to report, and retained case conversion takes real coordination between your SEO team, your intake process, and your case management data. Most agencies don't have visibility into what happens after the click, so they report on what they can see. That's not necessarily dishonest, it's just incomplete. But if you're the one running the firm, you can't afford to stop at incomplete. You're the one who needs to fill the picture. You're the one who needs the full picture. Let's make this concrete with an example. Picture 2 personal injury firms, both ranking in the top 3 for car accident lawyer in their city, both getting a similar volume of monthly organic traffic, somewhere around 3,000 organic visitors a month. Firm A is thrilled with their SEO because the rankings report looks great every month. Firm B looked past the rankings and started tracking retained case conversion rates instead, and found that most of their top ranking pages were pulling in people doing research, not people ready to hire an attorney. their retained case conversion rate was sitting at just 0.9%, roughly 27 retained cases out of that traffic. Once firm B restructured their content around high intent searches and tracked conversion rates by page, that number climbed to 2.6%, close to 78 retained cases from the same 3,000 visitors. Same starting point, same rankings, completely different business outcome, because one firm was tracking the metric that mattered and one that wasn't. One piece that gets overlooked here is intake and case management, because that's actually where this blind spot lives. Your website and SEO strategy can only get someone to raise their hand. What happens after that? How fast someone follows up? How the consultation is handled? Whether the lead gets logged at all determines whether that click ever becomes a number you can track. A lot of firms have no clean way to trace a signed case back to the page or keyword that brought that person in, which means even if they wanted to track retained case conversion rates, the data simply doesn't connect yet. That's not an SEO problem, that's an operations problem, but it directly affects whether your SEO metrics mean anything at all. So here's how you start fixing this at your own firm this week. Go into your analytics and pull up your top organic landing pages. For each one, ask, do we actually know how many leads from this specific page became retained cases? If the honest answer is, we don't track that, that's the gap to close first. Loop in whoever manages your intake or case management system and start tagging leads by the page or keyword that brought them in. It won't be perfect on day one, but even a rough version of this number is more useful than a rankings report that looks good but tells you nothing about revenue. Once you start tracking this correctly, something interesting usually happens. Firms often find that their best looking pages, the ones ranking the highest and pulling the most traffic, aren't actually their best performing pages once you measure by retained cases. In one pattern I see a lot, a firm's number one ranking page brings in the most visitors but converts at under 1%, while a page ranked lower, sometimes sitting at position 6 or 7, quietly converts at 4% or higher because it's targeting people who are much closer to hiring an attorney. You can't see any of that if rankings and traffic are the only numbers on your dashboard. To sum it up, rankings and traffic aren't worthless, but they're not the finish line either. The metric that actually tells you whether your SEO is working is your retained case conversion rate, because that's the number that's actually tied to new clients and revenue, not just visibility. If this video made sense to you, subscribe so you don't miss the next video, and hit that like button if you found it useful. And if you know a personal injury law firm or attorney who could benefit from this, please share this channel with them. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.